both semi-date Khaotic at the same time?
No, you need to figure out who you letting next to because this is in the Bahamas.
This ain't got nothing to do with me.
Or with Amy.
Now you
Why you over here
come
talking
on now.
about my
Hold on.
who you letting next to? Because you was Amy 5 the whole
The drama and stakes are usually high in Atlanta's fast-paced love and hip-hop culture, but for Erica Banks, a rising star with a prominent presence in the rap industry, the demands of her rising fame were starting to wear her down. After joining the cast of Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, the Houston rapper found herself in the midst of an emotional tempest that she had not fully prepared for, in addition to a whirlwind of fame. In the midst of all of this, Erica had discovered a somewhat unexpected ally in the form of Karlie Redd, the seasoned veteran of the show who had witnessed and survived it all. However, what started as a night of camaraderie swiftly turned into an emotional roller coaster neither woman could have predicted. The personal side of things seemed to be in constant chaos, balancing fame, romance, and a relentless industry that didn't seem as glamorous as it appeared on the surface. The industry Karlie, the drama queen who had endured it all, and Erica, the flamboyant up-and-coming artist, were meant to have a chance to have some fun, let their guard down, and exchange tips. At first, the conversation was lighthearted as they discussed the latest drama in the industry, shared some laughs, and talked about their next steps in the music scene. But as the evening went on, Karlie kept the champagne flowing and invited Erica to her opulent condo with sweeping views of Atlanta's skyline. Everything started to change. The tension in the room increased when Karlie's perceptive gaze started to encourage Erica to talk about more than just the obvious. She could feel the burden on her shoulders from the way her eyes darted when specific subjects were brought up and how she would move in her chair when the conversation turned back to her previous relationships. Never Karlie, the shrewd reality actress, wasn't going to dismiss Erica so quickly because she was aware of the emotional toll this industry had on women.
My homegirls ex anything. I think that's kind of crazy and just a little bit below the belt.
But didn't you and Amy both semi-date Khaotic at the same time?
No, you need to figure out who you letting next to because this is in the Bahamas.
This ain't got nothing to do with me.
Or with Amy.
Why you
over here
come
talking
on now.
about my
Hold on.
who you letting next to?
Hold on.
Because you was Amy 5 the whole trip.
The topic of conversation shifted to Erica's relationships with the men in her life, both inside and outside of the industry. Karlie could see the weakness in her armor and was resolved to help Erica face the skeleton she had buried deep inside. It didn't take long for Erica's cool exterior to start to crumble. Her tone faltered as she began talking about the pressure of being in the spotlight, how every action she took was watched closely, and how the guys Karlie pushed further, asking about the impact of being a female rapper in a male-dominated industry. And then the tears came. Erica's composure was shattered in an instant, and she buried her face in her hands to conceal the flood of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. It was as if everything she had been holding inside, the hurt, frustration, and loneliness, came rushing out all at once, and her body shook with sobs. Karlie took a bag and pulled her in. For once, the embrace wasn't about being the fierce, strong woman the world saw on social media. Rather, it was about being the unvarnished, unadulterated Erica that no one ever saw. Erica's breakdown was not just about the industry pressures. It was also about her ongoing struggle with herself. She talked about the heartache of trying to find true love in a world full of opportunists, the exhaustion of pretending to be someone she wasn't, and the night she sobbed herself to sleep, wondering if this life was worth living any longer. It was more than just a moment of weakness. It was a release. Something about Erica's suffering struck close to home in that moment, even though Karlie, who was known for her own emotional baggage, wasn't used to seeing the younger women on the show this vulnerable. She had watched stars rise and fall. The room became heavy with the intensity of the discourse, the kind of moment that couldn't be manufactured, as Persona softened and gently wiped away Erica's tears, reassuring her that she didn't have to bear the burden of the world alone and that she was in this together with her. For the cameras, but the cameras were recording every unfiltered moment of Erica's breakdown. As she struggled to gather herself, She felt vulnerable, and her deepest fears were now visible to the world, but there was also a strangely liberating aspect to it. For the first time in a long time, Erica wasn't just the polished professional rapper. She was a woman going through her own emotional journey. Once the stillness subsided, Karlie Redd, the strategist, sensed an opening and said, "Listen, you're stronger than this, and you're going to come out on the other side of this problem is better than ever." But he must quit acting as though nothing is wrong. As the night went on, the women continued to talk about their pasts, struggles, and future plans. The champagne was gone, but the bond between them had become so strong that Erica felt vulnerable and exposed, yet strangely empowered for the first time. Neither of them had foreseen how a tumultuous and emotionally charged evening would develop into something more profound, a bond that transcended the cameras and the drama. Knowing that the music industry was as cutthroat as ever and that her personal struggles were far from over, Erica realized that night in the presence of someone who understood her pain and her ambition that the chaos, drama, and heartbreak were all a part of the journey, and that having Karlie Redd by her side made her feel more. What followed was a tale of strength, survival, and the indisputable power of vulnerability, and Erica Banks was prepared to take on everything, no matter how chaotic it became. She was more prepared than ever to face whatever the future brought.
Dating my homegirl's ex anything, I think that's kind of crazy and just a little bit below the belt.
But didn't you and Amy both semi-date Khaotic at the same time?
No, you need to figure out who you letting next to because this is in the Bahamas.
This ain't got nothing to do with me.
Or with Amy.
Now you
Why you over here talking about my
Hold on,
who you laying next
hold
to?
on,
Because you was Amy 5 the whole trip.
Since Karlie wasn't backing down, the conversation shifted to Erica's relationships with the men in her life, both inside and outside of the industry. Karlie could see the weakness in her armor and was determined to help Erica face the skeleton she had buried deep inside, so it didn't take long for Erica to cool off after her laugh was a little too forced. The outside started to fracture. Her voice faltered as she began to discuss the strain she felt from being in the spotlight, how every action she took was watched, and how the guys she dated were more concerned with her appearance than her feelings. When Karlie persisted in her questioning on the costs of being a female rapper in a male-dominated field, tears started to fall. Erica's calmness abruptly broke down in a moment, and she buried her face in her hands to conceal the rush of feelings that threatened to overwhelm her. It seemed like everything she had been holding inside, the hurt, the frustration, the loneliness, came rushing out at once, and her body trembled with sobs. Karlie, who had taken AB back, reached out and pulled her in for a hug for once, was the unvarnished, unadulterated version of the tough, fierce woman the world saw on social media. Erica, the person no one ever saw in addition to the demands of the profession, Erica's breakdown was a result of her ongoing struggle with herself. She talked about the anguish of trying to find true love in a world full of fake love, the wariness of pretending to be someone she wasn't, and opportunistic Karlie, who is known for her own emotional baggage, wasn't used to seeing the younger women on the show this vulnerable. She talked about the night she sobbed herself to sleep, wondering if this life was even worth it anymore. It was more than a moment of weakness. It was a release, a catharsis that had been building up for far too long. Tumble, but something about Erica's suffering struck close to home at that precise moment. When Karlie's tough love persona softened, she wiped away Erica's tears and reassured her that she didn't have to bear the burden of the world by herself.
You both semi-date Khaotic at the same time?
No, you need to figure out who you letting next to because this is in the Bahamas.
This ain't got nothing to do with
Or
me.
with Amy.